This podcast is a proud member of Culture Box. Whether you enjoy geeky reviews, comedy, or original fiction, you can open up the Culture Box and find something excellent for your soul. Point your web browser to culturebox.media.
This show is a part of Pop Americana. For more great shows like this one, please check the link in the episode description. Cartoons, the animated frontier. These are the voyages of the Cellcast podcast. Its continuing mission: to explore strange new cartoons, to seek out new animation styles and new creative storytelling methods, to boldly go where so few ever go again. To another episode of the Cellcast,
the animated series.
Joining me today is a man who confused a gopher for a sneeze weasel, Jacob.
Well, doesn't everybody? They look the same. You drew it wrong.
You knew my art skills before this started.
That makes no excuse.
I'm not a hand drawer, I'm a digital drawer. But at the same time, I would have known not to draw the trees the same size as the gopher.
So true. Why, thank you. Introduce our co-host, a man who some towns just don't need a gopher grab.
Okay.
Welcome, Drew.
How are you doing, Jacob?
I'm doing Weaselton fine.
No one's going to get that joke. But, so I guess that's all that matters.
Hey, go back to episode 1 of the Cellcast.
True. Today, though, we are reviewing on Tangled, Rapunzel's Tangled Adventure.
Yeah.
We're reviewing Season 2, Episode 4, Goodbye and Goodwill.
Yeah.
First aired July 8, 2018, directed by Steven Sandoval and written by Ricky Roxburgh. In this episode, in hopes of further uplifting the spirits of the citizens, Rapunzel sticks her foot in it again.
Quite literally.
That's not what it says, it's just that's essentially what happens.
Pretty much.
If it had just left, none of this would have been a problem.
Yeah.
But Rapunzel decides to bring the Goodwill Festival to Varderos, but the citizens are not enthusiastic about the upcoming festivities until Cassandra presents daring and dangerous activities. Rapunzel and Cassandra attempt to work together, but they quickly begin to argue and disagree, resulting in them breaking off their partnership and planning their own separate events. However, Rapunzel notices everyone is more interested in Cassandra's ideas and attempts a reconciliation, but the competitiveness between them further escalates, and Rapunzel prepares the final deadly and dangerous event. Eugene tries to help Rapunzel and Cassandra mend their friendship and handcuffs them together. Meanwhile, Lance and Hookfoot are in charge of finding a gopher for the main event, but bring back a dangerous sneeze weasel instead because they didn't know what a gopher was. And it quickly begins to cause harm and disarray. Rapunzel and Cassandra work together to stop the sneeze weasel and at the same time reconcile their friendship. By the end of the festival, Rapunzel and the group leave Varderos and continue on their journey. This episode features the return of Britt Robertson as Vex, and this is the last episode with Reg E. Cathy playing Captain Quaid. In this episode, Rapunzel wears her original dress from Season 1. There's a running gag in this episode. Every time Rapunzel speaks of her beliefs, a Varderos woman keeps showing up on time to insult her and calls her a CLOD while walking away.
You CLOD.
A CLOD? The Varderos woman who keeps embarrassing Rapunzel and calling her CLOD is voiced by Eden Espinosa, who is also the voice of Cassandra.
Makes sense.
This was, of course, Reggie Cathy's final episode as Captain Quaid as he passed away from lung cancer on February 9th, 2018.
Oh.
And in this episode, Rapunzel references the episode Rapunzel's Enemy when Monty booed her for redesigning the Goodwill seal.
Mm-hmm.
So,
this is a fun episode.
This is a fun episode. This is actually my favorite of the 4 Varderos episodes.
Okay.
And a lot of it is is the lady who keeps coming up to Rapunzel saying, "I hate you and your ideas, you CLOD." I don't know why that's so funny, but it is, because you're just sitting there going, because sometimes you don't even expect it. You just hear Rapunzel doing it, and all of a sudden the camera just zooms back up enough so that lady can walk by and go, "You CLOD."
I do enjoy the idea that you have Rapunzel is being her Rapunzel self. She's got to make everything cool, good, and like fresh and bubbly and all that kind of stuff.
And that doesn't work here.
No, it doesn't.
This is a town of thieves and ne'er-do-wells.
Yes.
You're not going to get them to bob for apples.
True. And what grows from that the competitive nature between Rapunzel and Cassandra is absolute gold, and how that kind of cascades, and the idea of what Rapunzel did trying to get Eugene and Cassandra to reconcile their differences and kind of, make things right again, backfires on Eugene like it did with Rapunzel in that episode in season 1. And it's a very good episode. You get the shenanigans of, what is it? It's Shorty or Hookfoot?
It's Hookfoot and Lance. That go after the Sneeze Weasel. And my favorite part is they actually find a gopher.
Yeah, they find a gopher.
It's like, oh, look, here's one. Oh, wait a minute. This looks nothing like the picture. They're supposed to be a lot bigger. Eh? Well, keep looking. And they finally find this big monstrosity of a thing. It's like, guys, you were there. Hookfoot was there for the Goodwill games in Corona.
Yeah.
You should know what the gopher looks like.
You would think.
And you should also know not to go off of Eugene's drawings for this thing.
Get Rapunzel
to draw it. She would have done a better job. She could have just given you a copy of the seal from last year.
Yeah.
Because she's got her entire portfolio with her at all times.
Oh, yeah.
She's an artist after all.
Yeah, exactly.
Like we do that.
Bing. As I hold up my phone.
This isn't before the age of cell phones.
That's true, and totally it's either way.
I don't know. The RV's huge. She probably does have everything in there.
Yeah, probably.
But anyway.
Well, if we're talking about that, be like Rapunzel really can't be like she has so many likes and hobbies that she likes, to be like, where do they sleep with all her stuff?
That is a very good question, because her being the princess has the best bed.
That is true.
She's probably got the best bed. Cassandra probably sleeps close by. Mm-hmm. Eugene probably sleeps outside.
Probably.
And the other guys probably sleep on top of the RV.
Probably.
Maximus can sleep anywhere because he's a horse.
Yeah.
And as long as he's near Fedora.
Fedora, that's it.
He's fine.
He is perfectly fine. He's a good stallion.
Unlike the other stallion we saw in this
season. The other episode, no. A bad stallion. Yes. Shoo, girl, bye.
Anyway.
Either way, be like, this was a really fun episode. You get, there again, like I said before, you get the conflict between Rapunzel and Cassandra, and that's ultimately brought back together, knitted back together. And it's a really fun episode. It's a really fun episode that, there again, we're dealing with a road trip kind of story, so things get interesting from here on out.
Yes. It's just, we happened to have 4 episodes that happened to take place in this one city.
Yes.
And there's a part of me that wonders if maybe the original plan was for this season to take place in Varderos as being the hub, like Corona was the hub of the first season.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe because of the death of Quaid, essentially, the actor who played Quaid, they decided to not do that. It's just a theory. I have no idea if that's true.
Well, knowing more of the story, it's a good starting point, but there's so much more to get into as we adventure into season 2.
Yes.
And get headlong into season 3.
This really does feel like it was the last chance they could get they had to get rid of any leftover story concepts from story 1 that they wanted to get done.
Yeah.
Because you're not going to be able to get it done after this point.
True.
I guess from what I've heard of season 3, maybe you could have done it then. But let's face it, you don't really, at that point you've got more interesting stuff going on.
Yeah, a lot more interesting stuff.
Yes.
Either way.
Anywho, that brings us to the end of this episode, I think. So join us next time for The Forest of No Return.
Come, Jacob, we must prepare for next week.
Prepare for what, Drew?
The same thing we do every week, Jacob. Record a podcast!
Oh, boy.
So where can they find you, Jacob?
You can find me on Facebook at Jacob B. Heron, also on Facebook at Jacob's Daily Art Corner, where I try to draw each and every day. I don't get to it as often as I like, but join me there. Also, you can find me on Instagram at Jacob B. Heron, on Twitter at Jacob Heron, and Letterboxd at Jacob Heron. So where can they find you, Drew?
You can also follow me on Letterboxd at GGeorge759, Facebook as Drew Dodgen, my Facebook page where you can see pictures I've taken at Drew's Photo Bin. You can also follow me on Twitter at GGeorge759.
You can email us at thecellcastpodcast@gmail.com.
You can also follow us on Twitter at cast_cell.
You can follow us on Twitch at twitch.tv/thecellcastgaming.
You can also follow us on YouTube at Cellcast,
Listen to our podcast on Apple Podcasts,
Google Play Podcasts,
Stitcher,
Spotify,
and your favorite podcast directory.
You can also listen to us on the Movie of the Week podcast with Jim Heron, where we talk about live-action movies. And remember, Cell is a single L.
You got us turned around again!
In other words, the fire swamp.